they're not registered.
Is there any other Republican who has your views on this?
Well, I have Republicans who come to me on the floor and say, I wish I could vote with you today. Yours is the right vote, but I would just take too much flack back home. And I have Republicans who come to me and say, that's wrong what AIPAC is doing to you. Let me talk to my AIPAC person. By the way, everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I don't know how it works on the Democrat side, but that's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to D.C., you go have lunch with them, and they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them. So I've had
that's absolutely crazy.
I've had 4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my AIPAC person. And it's literally what we call them, my AIPAC guy. I'll talk to my AIPAC guy and see if I can get him to, dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
It doesn't benefit anybody. Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to tell you that.
Have you seen any other country do anything like this? Like
no.
Russia obviously determines the outcome of our elections. We keep hearing that. Does anyone have a Putin guy that they talk to?
Not only do they not have a Putin guy, look, they don't have a Britain guy. They don't have an Australian guy. They don't have a Germany dude. It's the only country that does this, that has somebody that uniformly. I guarantee there's some spreadsheet at AIPAC where the AIPAC dude who's matched up with the congressman is there, and then all the congressman's votes on the issue. Oh, has the congressman been to Israel? They pay for trips for congressmen and their spouses to go to Israel. I'm not the only Republican who hasn't taken the AIPAC trip to Israel, but I'm probably one of a dozen that hasn't taken that trip, and the other ones just haven't got around to it.
What's the trip like?
I'm very glad to see 2 great friends of Israel.
Well, we're here to show our unwavering support for Israel.
Well, we have no better friends, and I mean that. Tested over time.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, it's good to be back. It's good to be with my good friend, the Prime Minister. And it's important that we're here now to state unequivocally that the United States stands with Israel.
Indeed.
And these are perilous times, but Israel's strength, Israel not only has a right, but a responsibility to defend yourselves. And there are some in the press that draw a moral equivalency between Hamas terrorists and Israel defending innocent citizens. They're not equivalent. And thank you for standing up and keeping people safe. Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel. And yesterday we went and we're down on the Gaza border. The incredible effectiveness of Iron Dome has saved thousands of Israeli lives and thousands of Palestinian lives.
That's great.
And let me thank you also in particular for your clarity and strength in dealing with Iran. And I share your judgment that a nuclear Iran is a risk that Israel cannot tolerate and that America cannot tolerate.
The world can't tolerate.
And so thank you for the strength of resolve that Israel has, because that is needed, and I think it's needed now more than ever.
Well, thank you, Ted. And thank you, Senator.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you. Please.
It wasn't my idea to oust the speaker. I thought it was dangerous. I look at the world and all the threats that are out there, and what kind of message are we sending to our adversaries when we can't govern? With respect to funding, we have appropriated $3.3 billion in foreign military financing that is available to the president through a drawdown. He can draw down that authority, but we have to get a speaker elected this week so we can get things on the floor like replenishing the Iron Dome. Get a resolution that Chairman or Ranking Member Meeks and I have been working on bipartisan resolution condemning Hamas for what they have done to Israel. We want to get that on the floor by unanimous consent, whether or not we have a speaker in place.
Well, I thank the Speaker. I thank my friend from Texas, the chairman, and I want to thank the ranking member and his staff, the entire staff of the Foreign Affairs Committee for their diligent work on this. We're working all last week, working through the weekend, and conversations. And on this one, I think the tone, it's important to note that I do believe that there is significant bipartisan agreement that we need to take action to stand with one voice in this country, in the United States of America, to send a strong signal to not just the International Criminal Court, but to the international community generally, that we cannot stand by and allow the court to do what it's doing, because let's remember why we're here. We're here because the International Criminal Court is seeking to issue warrants on the Prime Minister of Israel. It merits letting that just sit out here and marinate for a second, that's what we're dealing with. The Prime Minister of Israel, who is engaged in defending his country after the horrific October 7th attacks, which we have talked about in great detail on this floor. The assaults, the rapes, the beheadings of babies, the killing of innocent civilians, what happened and what occurred on our Jewish brothers and sisters and others in Israel on October 7th. And Israel is responding to that and taking the attack to Hamas. We recognize the difficulty of that, of Hamas being fully intertwined with the civilians in Gaza. The steps that Israel is taking to send text messages, drop 15 million leaflets or more, leave voice messages, give 2 weeks advance notice, do what they can to try to make sure that there's protections for civilians, keeping the overall civilian to combatant casualty below historic norms, by most accounts, including third-party observation. Now looking into Rafah, when the international community is saying you can't go into Rafah, and you go into Rafah and you find 50-plus tunnels, I think now 75 or more tunnels where we know they were being used to carry out attacks on Israel. Israel is under assault right now with missiles being fired with regularity by Hamas into Israel. This is Israel. This is not some random entity. This is Israel, our close ally. And you've got a body to which we do have no sovereignty for this country that is being given to the International Criminal Court because we're not a party to it. We're not undermining our sovereignty. We're not going to do that as America. That's what this stands for. That's what this says. This says that we should not be allowing the International Criminal Court to not just go after the Israeli Prime Minister, but the door that opens to go after our own service members, to go after our own generals, to go after America's interests. Because what happens here is going to be coming at us and our country. That's why it's important to speak with one voice, with authority, with force. Now,
morning, Governor Greg Abbott arrived in Israel and sat down with the Israeli Prime Minister. He made that trip alongside Oklahoma's governor, and KXAN's Will Dupree joining us now with more on that visit. What exactly, Will, did Abbott have to say about this visit?
So the governor said this international trip is meant to shore up support and reaffirm that for Israel during this ongoing war. His office shared a picture as well of that meeting that you mentioned. Abbott is seen here smiling alongside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt. The governor said traveling there was done in coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel and the Consulate General of Israel to the southwest. In a statement, Abbott wrote here, quote, "Texas stands ready to offer our complete and total support to Israel in their fight against brutal terrorist organizations like Hamas." He also said he would visit a hospital in Tel Aviv to talk with victims as well as affected families to better understand what they're going through right now. Now, we also learned today that the state's top accountant is buying an additional $45 million in Israeli bonds. That comes on top of the $20 million spent on those just last month. So these are some of the efforts, Jen, for Texas to support Israel during this time.